This is part two of our lecture on working with volunteers. We're going to talk about recruiting volunteers. Think about this expression. John, we can't find anybody to teach the fifth grade class. Would you do it? Can I ask you a question? Would you do it? The fact of the matter is that when we were recruited out of desperation or out of the sense that there's nobody else that can do it, so we're just kind of coming to you, is highly unmotivating in terms of recruiting. You need to have a strategy for recruiting. One, you need to recruit with a purpose, not a position. You need to ask questions like, why is this ministry job task important? People will not commit to a task that they think is unimportant. They don't volunteer to build up an organization or a program, even at churches. They get involved because they desire to influence, change, and help other people, as well as build up personal relationships. They do not want to merely fill a spot in some organizational chart. Number two, recruit with the right method. Guilt, manipulation, and cajoling are always the wrong method. Number three, recruit based on giftedness. After our previous lecture, I hope that makes sense. Number four, have clear job descriptions. Number five, recruit through individual appeal. So many churches use sign-up lists, and sign-up lists are often very unproductive. And a person needs to know that we are interested in them, and they are best recruited either by another volunteer in that ministry or by you. You also can recruit through general appeal. Give the church kind of a vision of what's going on, and as a result of that, maybe you can identify people you have not thought about before. But do it actively, not passively. Number seven, please avoid overworking workers. Pay attention to how many jobs are being piled onto them and the effect on their lives or the potential effect. Invite people to do a responsibility audit in the sense of their life, knowing they can only do so many things, so when something new is added, help them subtract something from the list. And finally, recognize that some people are generalists. They can do a lot of different kinds of things. They don't require a lot of skill, and they can learn easily, but they're generally generalists. Can I say it that way? And some people are specialists, and specialists work best in their specialty. Now, in the additional notes, I've suggested a form of a job description, but I want to finish this portion with telling you a story. It's the story of Amy. When I was pastoring in Fort Wayne, I taught what was called the AIM class, Associates in Ministry. And part of that class was to help a lay person in the congregation discover their ministry. And as we were doing that one night, Amy said, I know my gift and I know my passion. And I said, well, Amy, what's your gift? And she said, my gift is teaching. And then she said, but stop right there. I know you've got the Sunday school superintendent on speed dial, and I know you need teachers of children. But you know what? I have 4 young children, and I spend all week with those children. I do not want to come to church and work with children again. Then who would you teach, Amy? Well, my problem is my passion is for mentally handicapped adults, and we don't really have that kind of ministry in this church. And so perhaps maybe we should. Would you give me permission, Amy, to share with the church what your concern is? She said, well, I would like to create a Sunday school class for mentally handicapped adults. Quite often when they're children, people have great passion for them and compassion for them. When they get to be adults, we're kind of sometimes just even embarrassed by them. We kind of hope they stay out of the way. But I believe that mentally handicapped adults can still serve Jesus if they are taught what Jesus teaches. I said, well, let me share your vision. See if we have anybody shares it. And you find out actually if there's a need for this ministry, even in this area. Amy was back first before I even got to the congregation. She says, yes, Pastor, I discovered a group home for mentally handicapped adults. It is in your neighborhood. You probably walk by it every day when you take your walks. She was right. She says, and I've talked to them about whether they would like their folks to come to church. And they said, we would love to let them come to church. We know they would like to come, and it would be a great blessing to them. But on weekends, we are short-staffed. We don't really have somebody who can go with them. I went to the church. I'd gone to the church and asked if there were any people who were interested, had a passion for this kind of ministry, and I had 4 volunteers. There were 2 ladies who just had the gift of helps. They just and the gift of mercy, and they just loved people who people often considered irregular. And then I had 2 ladies who were drivers for the school district, and they drove buses for mentally handicapped students. And when they came to me, they said, "We've already talked to the trustees. There are a couple of things we need to do to make our van a little more accessible." And so we launched a ministry. And every Sunday, one of the ladies with the gift of helps and one of the drivers would go pick up the folks and bring them to church. We had church first and Sunday school second, but they brought them in for worship. And those ladies and Amy would sit with those folks, and they would introduce them to people. And if people had questions, they found a way to help explain what was there. They also helped those folks understand how to worship. And then afterwards, they would go to a Sunday school class and learn how to serve Jesus. That class actually lasted for 2 years until they closed that group home. But during that time, we found, and I could tell you many stories, about mentally handicapped adults who became disciples of Jesus Christ because of the passion that Amy had and her gift, and the volunteers who responded to that call to wrap around her. There are 2 more things I want to say. One is you need to avoid motivational killers, and there are 5 of them. One is fear. Every time you use fear in the process of talking to people about their service, you take away the hope and joy of that work, and you turn their eyes away from Jesus towards problems. Number 2, lack of appreciation. People don't always need public appreciation, but they need to know that what they do is valued. A sense of futility is the 3rd one. If they think nothing is being accomplished, if they think they're just doing the same old thing over and over again, that they're in a rut, and my definition of a rut is a grave with both ends kicked out, then it's hard to motivate them when they just feel it's futile. Number 4, when you give them responsibility but no authority. You say you're supposed to be responsible for this task in the church, but you have to do it my way, and you have to make sure I clear it before you do it. Whereas when you say, go take care of it. I actually had that happen with a church administrative assistant. My predecessor was quite a micromanager. I came in one day and I said, I need this advertisement. And I know you're creative, but what I'd like you is to prepare 2 options, at least 2 options for me of how to do this so we can make this advertisement work. The next day I came back and she had 3 options. And she explained all of those options to me. They were very well explained. And then she said, which one do you like? And I said, the second one. She said, okay. I said, go with it. You don't have to go to 3 committees to get it approved? No. I don't have to wait? No. You did what I asked you to do. Now you have the authority to go do it. That changed our whole relationship right there, I'm going to tell you. The 5th one is unclear responsibilities. When you kind of vaguely say, look after the kitchen, or when you vaguely say, watch over the children, when you vaguely say, be available in case something happens, people are not motivated by that. In fact, it ends their motivation. And the last thing I want to share with you is the concept of servanthood versus servitude. Bruce Bugbee, in his classic work, Networking, which is used by Willow Creek in training of its volunteers, says that there's a sense of servanthood in which people serve out of their sense of calling, their spiritual giftedness, their passions, etc. And then there's a sense of servitude where they do it out of obligation because it just has to be done because nobody else will do it. And it really has nothing to do with their gifts or talents or passions. It just has to do with the job that the church needs to be done. He said servanthood is self-perpetuating. It grows and makes you stronger and helps them be better volunteers. Servitude is usually a formula for losing that volunteer in the long run. I hope that these lectures this week, along with the wonderful readings that we have from Anderson and Hybels, are a strength to you as you think about working with volunteers. And next week, we're going to talk about training and supervising those volunteers. God bless.